Most people think of the spiritual community as this place of safety, healing, and unconditional love. And yes, it can be all of that. But let's be honest, where there's light, there's dark. And today we are going to uncover some of the dark stuff about the spiritual industry that some of you may not actually know.
Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
My friends, welcome to Hope, Healing, and Transformation. My name is Lisa Williams, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the darker side of the spiritual community. Now, this has been a little bit inspired by a recent podcast that I did talking about a personal story of mine. And I noticed all of the comments, I read them all, and a lot of people were saying thank you to me for bringing light to this. So I do want to actually jump on the back of what we were talking about, because I do feel as though there is another part of the spiritual community that maybe you don't actually realize. And as I've said, it can all be about love, light, white light, happiness, and unconditional love. But there is this darker side of it. And some of it can be a place of manipulation. It can be a place of spiritual bypassing and abuse of power. And this is what I really want to dive into today, which I do feel is very important because I've lived it, I've seen it, and maybe you have too. And so today we're going to dive into it. One of the greatest things that I can always say to you is trust your intuition. Trusting your intuition is the key. And I had it recently where I got on and I'm like, onto this reading, and I was like, yeah, I'm not quite liking this situation, not quite trusting this person, don't actually feel connected to it. And I was right. Because in this, as they were a spiritual teacher, and I get a lot of spiritual teachers, but I just felt there was a lot of underhand stuff. And you know what's interesting? Is I almost feel as though spirit didn't put me in that reading, because I woke up with a really bad headache, and I hardly ever cancel a reading, but that was one of the readings that I wanted to, and we have to trust. But I want to share with you a different story here. This story is when I placed my everything into a situation, and I put everything into it only because it was this, I believed in a place, I believed in the situation, I believed in who they were, I believed in everything. And so I think it's very, very important for me to put my foundation here is that I trusted in the person and the people for it to be a good place, because I had witnessed it, I had seen it, I had been part of it. And then I started to realize there was this undercurrent. And, this undercurrent, which was jealousy. A lot of people were very jealous of me. I started to realize that they were not empowering, but they were trying to control me, trying to put me down, trying to manipulate. And I was told that I was out of integrity. And that is the one thing that, if you ever say I'm out of integrity, I will fight you to it, because I'm telling you, I trust my integrity is my thing. So I was told I was out of integrity. I was told that I had an outside agenda. And I'm like, I have no reason to have an outside agenda here. Anything that I put forward was squashed. Even if I wasn't involved in it, I was told that I was not allowed to be part of a certain situation. And in that place, I said, not a problem. But I was only standing up for those particular people. And I had their backs, but I was told I could not help them. And I even had their backs. And it was really, really tough, because I felt like I was being pushed And every time I was trying to help someone, it felt like it was being pushed back on me, and it hurt. And then I was told that I was, my vibration, I had to raise my vibration, and that it was all about, whatever. It was all, we create our own reality according to natural law. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, we do. But there's only so much that I'm responsible for, and I'm responsible for creating my reality. And if I want to moan, I'm creating that reality. And that is fine. And I'm trying not to share too much or I'm trying not to share the situation because it was a very hurtful thing. And I don't want to bring it to light in that respect. But it was really tough, to the point that I really did feel that I was in an abusive relationship, again, with a spiritual place and a spiritual people and we were all striving for the same thing. And you might actually find that familiar. You might actually think, oh my God, I've been told that my vibration is low. I've been told that I'm out of integrity. I've been told that I'm out of alignment. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, my friends, that's spiritual bypassing at its best. At its absolute best. And it's one of the most common ways that people in a position of influence, such as myself or other people, use spirituality as a weapon instead of a tool for healing. And it's true. So let's and I'm gonna harp on about this today because I think it's so important. And if you can relate to this, please share it to your friends, your family, to co-workers, because I feel like the spiritual community has this, it is very, very positive, but there's also this negative side of it where there's a lot of underhand talking. I remember being spoken about by a very, very well-known psychic medium, okay, and who I adore. And it's nothing against this person. I absolutely adore this person. And yet, a lot of the people that worked around him or worked with him were slandering me. And in the end, I actually picked up the phone and said, hey, I just have to share with you what is being spoken about me around in your circle. And they were shocked, because that was not the story. And I said, well, I actually have an email, and I showed them, because I'm not about gossiping, but I actually showed them an email. I said, listen, I want you to know that it's not a reflection of how I see you, but I want you to be aware of the people that you have around you. And it is so true. This spiritual bypassing, it is when it creates these real emotions within us. Because everything that we have is real. Whether or not it actually physically happened or it's in our head, our body creates it as real. Our brain thinks it's real. Our brain doesn't understand difference between fact and fiction. And so these real emotions, such as grief, anger, trauma, it gets dismissed in these spiritual, cliques that are around. And, I've even said it. Yes, things do happen for a reason. And absolutely things happen for a reason. And when we start looking at the bigger picture of things and we start understanding the bigger picture of it, then things happen for a reason. But that line, things happen for a reason, without any form of explanation behind it, that's a bypass. I had to do it the other day. A friend of mine said, I cannot believe she'd lost her aunt, and then her aunt's husband passed away very, very suddenly out of the blue. And I said, you know what, it was probably a life contract. And of course there was a little bit of forwards and backwards. And she said, I said, these things are going to happen for a reason. Sometimes we don't know what they are. However, we have a life contract, and this is what was pre-planned. And so I therefore went into it. But these things happen for a reason, and just leaving it, it doesn't actually help people. And when we talk about, it's just love and life, don't focus on the negative. Well, yes, there is a part of that. But again, we have to also recognize that where there's light, there's dark. And I had it again in a class recently where people were talking about, I want to talk about the negative elements. And I'm like, sometimes I don't deal with the negative elements, and this is the reasons why I don't. And I actually put it out in that way. I actually shared why I don't do that. So without any form of explanation, you're being spiritually bypassed. If someone says to you, well, you've attracted this, let's have a little bit more explanation, because what that is it's an element of fear and control. We all create our own reality according to natural law, which is one of the spiritualist principles. It's a principle of spiritualism. We create our own reality according to natural law. Well, yes, of course, we've attracted it, but let's discuss it and let's go deeper into the meaning of it. Don't just throw out these phrases because you've heard it somewhere or you've heard it in a book, because this is spiritually bypassing, and this stuff really hurts people. And here's the problem. They might sound all love and life, but they don't actually validate these human experiences that we are having, that we are going through. Because I will share with you, I have had a lot more trauma, or in my mind, I've had a lot more trauma from the spiritual community as opposed to, probably what I had in childhood. Probably not, because we all have childhood wounding. But, these spiritual communities, when they're gathering or when they start throwing knives at people, okay, because that's what does also happen, is one person has an opinion and then everybody else has to jump on the bandwagon. That's just wrong. And what it does is it causes people to doubt themselves, it causes other people to doubt them, and it keeps this cycle going. I was very much part of a community, and people know the community. And I had a lot of people that came to me, and once I'd shared my opinions and they saw me cry and they saw me be upset and they saw me actually say, you guys have come to your own conclusions, you've jumped to your own conclusions, yet you haven't spoken to me. I had several people who were somewhat of the ringleaders actually come up to me and say, I'm so sorry. We didn't think that you were like that. And I said, that's the problem, is no one thinks about the other person. No one actually has time, effort, and energy to go and say, hey, can I ask you a question? People jump on this assumption of who you project into the world. And I will tell you, it's hurtful. And so I'm going to say to you, it actually stops people when we actually have this situation. It stops people from doing the work, the hard work of healing. It stops the people stepping into their power. And I'll tell you, it is dangerous. I almost came out of mediumship because of all of that. And that would have been a very, very sad day. And I'll tell you honestly, in a spiritual community, and I'm not just talking in one community, I'm talking as a global community, that energy is dangerous, because again, we are putting it out into the universe. We are absolutely attracting the energies because we are starting to believe it. We're starting to trust in it. And so we're actually putting it out into the universe. So I will say to you, as they say, burp on the truth. It was that. Ooh. But I will say to you, be aware of where you're putting your time, effort, and energy into it, and if it's the right energy for you. Because I'm just going to share this here. One of the things that I've learned is that people who are searching spiritually are often in the most vulnerable place in their life. Maybe they're grieving. Maybe they've gone through a big life change. Maybe they're just lost. And unfortunately, those are the moments when it's easy for a spiritual leader to step in and say, hey, I got all the answers. Come over here. Well, reality is no one has all the answers. Only you have all the answers. But my friends, this is where the power dynamics get a little bit tricky. And when someone puts themselves in this positions themselves in that place as they are the only voice of truth or the only person that can fix you, it is not empowerment. That is dependency. And that dependency is completely the opposite of spiritual growth. And I will absolutely say it here. If anyone tells you they are the only one that has the answers for you, run, and run very fast. Please run. fast as you can. Because this creates a problem. And I've had it, and I see it all the time. I train psychics and mediums around the world. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of psychics and mediums who are certified through me. And I have had no problem in revoking certifications for that situation in itself. And it is important for us to realize that we have this way about us that we are needy at some time. Even myself, I've been needy. All right, I've been spiritually stuck, and that is a hard thing. And so let's talk about toxicity, okay? And we'll talk about toxic positivity, because I think this is very, very key right now. It's the idea that you have to stay this high vibe all the time. Like, I'm going to smile through the tears. Don't talk about the pain. Don't acknowledge the hard stuff. Well, I'm going to tell you, I can't do that. You're going to know when I'm feeling crap. You're going to know when I'm in pain. You're going to know when I'm struggling, because life, and actually Chris and I were talking about this, my husband. We were talking about the staying in this frame, okay, and this framework. And he likened it to stocks and shares, because he's just that way. I likened it to handbags, and there's nothing wrong with the handbags, but shoes, handbags, just because that's who I am. But it's like, we have a baseline, and our baseline is really important. We have to maintain. We can't always be in a high, because what is that going to do for us? We can't always be in a low, because then we're going to stay in that place. There's a vibe that we're going to just jump in between. Okay, we have to understand that life is messy. Ew, healing is messy. It sucks. Grief. It's messy. You cannot heal what you are refusing to feel. And I'll explain it this way, because a friend of mine absolutely put it into this perspective. And I love this, this quote that my friend Janie, my bestie in the UK, said. She said, "You can't make an omelette without cracking an egg." And I will tell you, every time I go through something, I keep thinking, I can't go through this without it getting messy, because I can't. It's going to get messy. And you can't refuse to heal what you're not going to feel. And I think this is one of the greatest disservices that the spiritual world is constantly pushing. It's this look to be perfect, to feel perfect, to pretend everything's perfect, to have it, it's all love and light, and no, let me pull out a card for you. Yeah. No. I'm sorry, it's not. Okay, it's not spirituality. That is trying to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with social media, and that is exactly how it is. It's not. And I'm going to tell you, my friends, it keeps people stuck. Keeps people stuck in their healing, keeps people stuck in their development. It keeps people stuck because they are now having to think that they have to be here. My life isn't perfect. Oh my God, my life is not. But it's this place where we have to really learn from. Learning in this place of recognizing my own trauma. Okay? Recognizing all of it. And I'll tell you a story in a minute when I actually had to recognize it. But I also want to share with you this money and manipulation trap. Okay? I worked with a guy who used to call it, what was it, the monk and the marketer, because he was like, where am I, the monk or the marketer? I've got to market myself, but I also want to come across as a monk, which is fine. But I do want to share this, okay? And it's very controversial. The money aspect in the spiritual community, and I only had this conversation last night. And I do feel as though the money element in the spiritual world has become a big thing. And I have this conversation with many of my students. Now, I truly believe in exchange. And I believe that the energy of money is an exchange. And I believe that teachers, healers, guides, we deserve to be paid for our time. There is definitely an importance here about our work. And people, they say this about me. Oh my God, look at your prices and look at the price of your course. If I there is also an element of me giving back. Okay. And so what people don't see are the scholarships of the way that you do free readings, because it's in those people. And I have a client of mine, actually, I can see her name here. She said, Lisa, I have no problem in paying your price, because what that does is it gives you the ability to give back. And she's absolutely right. It does. And so it is really a difference. But here's the thing. We do deserve to be paid for our time, effort, energy. Okay. But there is a difference between being fair exchange and this manipulation. And I've had it before. If someone keeps saying to you, you need to keep having a reading with me, you need to keep having healing with me, you need to do this, you need to do that, then they are trying to manipulate your generosity or your fear to keep their pockets lined. Bottom line, okay? If someone tells you that they have the way to enlightenment and that they are going to show you, or if they are going to help you become more enlightened, or that your spiritual worth is tied to your bank account, it is all a red flag. If someone says that you have an attachment on you and that you have a negative attachment and that person needs to clear it and it's going to cost you X, that is a problem. Because in reality, spirituality is a concept of self. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, of course, but the spiritual being here has to trust. And half the battle is, my friends, is recognizing that we are in this moment of fear, and that we are not in this moment of fear. We're not able to make a decision, an intuitive decision, because we are now being fear-based and fear-led. And it's wrong. True spirituality is not going to hold your healing hostage because you can't afford it. This is the reason why there are people like myself putting podcasts out and giving free information. This is the reason why that there are opportunities to have YouTube and different spiritual courses, and why we put additional resources in the show notes, and why you can go to Lisa Williams / I think it's free gift, and get downloadable things. And that is the reason why we're trying to help you. But there are some people that don't. When I look back at some of my own experiences, the hardest part was not just realizing I had been manipulated, but it was realizing that I had actually ignored my own intuition. I'm Lisa Williams. I'm a really good psychic medium. I've been using my intuition for decades. And I have been doing this work for decades, 3 decades. Yeah, I know. Oh God, I can't believe it's been that long. But when I have ignored my own intuition, and I knew something was off, and I felt the red flags, but I didn't want to admit it because I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. And in reality, my friends, I wanted to belong somewhere, because this can be a really lonely space. Being in the psychic medium world, being in the spiritual world is very lonely, because we feel like, first of all, we feel like we can't talk about this to our spouses. We feel, sometimes we can't talk about emotions. I know sometimes it's hard for me, only because sometimes he's not open to it. Sometimes I don't want to talk about that because that's all I'm talking about every single day. And when I'm with him, I just want relaxation. Maybe some of these things are things that you can relate to. You wanted to believe so badly, or you wanted to trust so badly, or you didn't have anywhere else to go, that you gave your power away. And here's the truth. Your soul knows already. Your body knows already. The greatest teacher that you can ever have is yourself. It's how I learned. I didn't sit in a class. I didn't sit with other psychics and mediums. I sat with myself. I sat and listened. I sat and listened to spirit. I sat and trusted my own intuition. It doesn't mean that you can't learn from other people. And I truly believe that. But it does mean that you should never abandon yourself for the sake of trying to belong somewhere. It's not a good place. You know, when I first started to work as a psychic medium, I take myself back there. I used to go and sit in spiritualist churches. I used to go and watch the public demonstrations. I used to go and have psychic readings. I wanted to watch them. Yes, there was an element of me that I was curious, but I was really just watching what they did. And I learned from being there. And when I learned from being there, I sat with it. And I started to listen to my own intuition. I started to connect to my own guides. I started to connect to my own spirit. Now, there is a difference here. And a friend of mine put it into perspective. She said, Lisa, you have a great gift, but you have an even better skill. And that was something that I want to say kind of offended me a little bit, because I'm like, but I have an amazing gift. No, it was the skill of how I deliver the information. The gift was there, you know, it was wide open. And the more that I have been using my gift and the more I practice my gift, the more it actually, you know, it just develops and develops. And even I have readings where I'm like, wow, where did that come from? But in that place, I learned from me. And then I honed my gift. I crafted it. I nurtured it. And I nurtured it by watching all the things that I did and that I probably would have changed. It's just the way it is. But anyway, let's look at the darker side. Okay, these red flags. So, you know, the darker side, before you kind of get caught up in it, these are some of the red flags that you need to watch for. So if you're going to a spiritual teacher, or if you're looking for a spiritual practice, or you're looking for a class, these are some of the things that you need to be aware of. Okay. So I always say to my students, this is a time to ask me anything. Any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, please state it. Because these are your time to say, what are your questions? What are your comments? Even if it's negative towards me, your questions, comments, thoughts, what is going through your mind? What are you thinking that you might be batshit crazy about? And you're really not. And I want to put some perspective on it. And what are your concerns? You might be having concerns about things. And so therefore, I want to address them. If your questioning is discouraged and potentially punished, you're in the wrong place. You're with the wrong teacher. You're with the wrong person. If you're told your doubts don't mean that you're more evolved enough, well, I'm sorry, that's wrong. Because I'm going to tell you right now, we all have doubts. We have doubts about what we're feeling. We have doubts about what we're getting. We have doubts. And that's okay. You know why? Because you are human, my friend. Okay? Now, this is the part that really grieves me. If your pain and grief are dismissed as a low vibration, or if you are depressed and you are told that you're not putting out the right vibration, that is a problem. Because right now there is so much knowledge and wisdom that we have gained from studying the brain and from understanding what trauma is, that it is not low vibration. It is the fact that maybe you need to deal with certain things before we start developing, which is the reason why I take a lot of my people on major certification courses. I deal with their life first, their healing first, before they step in to developing, because what we can do is we can create this unhealthy attachment into their trauma and bring it into readings. And so therefore, really, you're just reading yourself. And so you're not a low vibration. What it is that you actually just need to heal. Your growth is important. And here's the other part, my friends. If your growth is tied directly to how much you pay, that is BS. Absolute BS. Your growth is your own. You can grow by watching YouTube videos. You can grow by reading a book. You can spiritually grow by doing workshops. You can do all of this. It's not about how much you pay. What it is about honoring your actual growth and allowing yourself to find your way. And if your spiritual teacher or leader puts themselves in a position where they are the only truth, the only source of truth, the only wisdom out there, then I'm going to say to you, be careful. Be careful. I will always say to all of my students, go and study with this person, go and study with that person. This person has great courses on this. I want people to get the best out of their experience of life. And so recognize that when you're having any of these, take a moment to pause, allow yourself to breathe, check in with your own soul, check in with your own intuition, your own guidance here. So let's talk about this, my friends. Your power cannot ever be taken from you. You can only give it away. So no one can take your power. You can give it, but no one can take it. And once you see that truth, see that space, you can take it back. This is how narcissists work. We give them the power. And I have been in a relationship with a narcissist, and it was a very public narcissistic relationship. And in that relationship, I gave my power away. And as soon as I saw the truth, I took it back. And I never allowed myself I never put myself in that position. I cut all ties. And when you do that, you get your own power back. And in that moment for me, I had to learn that my intuition was my guiding light, my compass, my North Star, my lighthouse, whatever you want to call it. I had to realize that my intuition was going to guide me. I had to realize that my emotions were absolutely valid. And it's okay to have emotions. That my healing doesn't have to look perfect. Oh my God, because my healing is messy and I'm an ugly crier. I'm telling you, I'm ugly. But it's okay. And no one, not even the most convincing spiritual teacher, has the right to speak louder than your own soul. No one. No one. Any spiritual teacher will encourage you to find your way, and your way only. They will encourage you, especially for me, I want you to find your own psychic medium way. I want you to find your own way forward. Because your gift is different to mine. My gift is different to yours. It doesn't mean it's any different, and it doesn't mean it's any better. It just means they're slightly different here, but they're still the same. We're all leading to the one thing, which is healing. And so, of course, with anything, there is a darker side to the spiritual community, but there's also a great light side. This is a part where healing happens, where true connection is really born, where empowerment really takes hold of us and takes root. And you got to find your people. Find your people who resonate with exactly the same. Resonate on a deeper level. Resonate in that moment of, wow, this is what I believe in. The lesson here is don't give away your power. Don't silence your intuition. Don't let anyone else's override your own inner knowing. Don't let anyone's words override you. Because this spirituality isn't about worshipping a teacher, a person, a group, a religion, a this, a that. It's about remembering that you are your greatest teacher. And you are the most important person right now. And the most powerful words that you'll ever say to yourself are, I trust me. I trust me. Or look in the mirror and say your name and say, I trust you. And say it. Because you are the most important person here. Everything in your life revolves around you right now. You are the most important person in your life. And so remember, you're also your greatest teacher. And if you're sitting here thinking, wow, I've even used those lines, well, that's okay. You have an awareness now. And in that awareness, because I've even used them, but in that awareness, we can now do something. We can change it. We can turn it. We can start listening to it. And so if this has resonated with you, and if you feel that you know somebody that it's definitely happened to, or if somebody needs a little bit of help, send this episode to them. Send them. And just trust in yourself. Your soul always knows. Trust it, live it, and remember, never give your power away. My name's Lisa Williams, and thank you for watching Hope, Healing, and Transformation. Until next time, always trust in your intuition. It will never do you wrong.
Do you feel a whisper in the back of your mind, like the truth is waiting, but it's hard to find? Well, maybe there's magic in the words she brings. Close your eyes and listen in. Do you want to know everything? What your heart won't say, but your soul can sing. From love to loss and the space between, she's got the light to lift the unseen. Hope, healing, and transformation. Do you want to know everything? Do you want to know everything?
Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, the information shared on this podcast is meant to inspire and support you, but it's not a replacement for personalized advice from a qualified professional. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who might benefit. And don't forget to tune in next time. Until then, take care and keep believing in something better.